Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I always enjoy greeting everyone around the world, all our beautiful creative ladies who are joining us for this expert talk, which is a very special expert talk today. And I'll tell you why. Because today we have an expert, and actually we have two experts on this panel with the speaker, Christina Schteinbrecher-Pfandt, and our moderator, Kaneka Subberwal, who are top experts in the art industry. And today we are going to talk about art creativity and how we connect art and business. Welcome to Creative Women Platform. For many of you who know me and who don't know me, as I believe some people joining us today, joining us for the first time. And of course, we welcome all newcomers. I'm Olga Balakleits. I'm the founder and CEO of Creative Women Platform. We have many exciting plans. We have many exciting online and live events planned for the next year. We would like you to keep closely in touch with us to learn about how creativity could be the driving force of your life and who could bring success in your business life and in your private life. So it is my pleasure now to also pass the word to my dear partner and Executive Director of Creative Women Platform, Viola Edwards, also to greet you before I will make a proper introduction of our speaker. Viola.
Yes, thank you very much, Olga. Such a joy and pleasure to be with you in December 2021 in all this creativity that we spread around the world, and every day more and more in our life we understand why creativity is so important and why this platform it's so important to join. So I joined years ago, and it has been all benefit for me and for people that work with me. For today, I will be presenting to you our dear Kaneka Subberwal, that I had the pleasure to meet recently in Bahrain. Personally, having a breakfast together was such a joy. Driven by her passion for contemporary art as a consultant, collector, and curator, Kaneka founded Art Select in 2008. With her decades of worldwide experience, curating over 60 art exhibitions across 4 continents, and her network of global contacts in the art world, she created and established the Kingdom's first international art fair, Art Bahrain Across Borders, Art BAB, to make Bahrain a focal point for art in the region. Since its inauguration in 2015, Art BAB had grown exceptionally, exponentially, and has been a commercial success with over 2.7 million of art sales in Bahrain over the past 4 years, as well as establishing forward-thinking platform promoting the growth art in Bahrain. Kaneka has also pioneered many initiatives and collaboration in different countries, such as the International Artist Program and recent Residency Unlimited, dedicated to building bridges between the wealth of local artists, talent in Bahrain, and the rest of the world. It's quite long, but we're gonna summarize it in this way. Through Kaneka's strategic vision and direction for Art Select, Bahrain artists are now firmly positioned and connected to galleries, collectors, and art enthusiasts across the globe, and have exhibited in some of the most well-respected and prestigious art destinations, from the Grand Palais in Paris to the Museum of Contemporary Art in Singapore. Her influence, vision, and leadership had seen Art Select naturally expand into offering services in design, marketing, and communication, and event across multiple sectors. Welcome, Kaneka, and we're so happy that you are with us today. Now that during this pandemic, you have launched Indigo Advisory, an arm to share your experience and consult the businesses of art along launching a channel Design by Art Selected, with which work with artisans across border to create bespoke products inspired by the Gulf. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Viola, for introducing our moderator, who will be later questioning our main speaker, who is Christina Schteinbrecher-Pfandt, a very special lady indeed, who I've known for many, many years. And I've been more and more impressed by Christina's achievements over the years, and especially with her very latest achievement. And now it's my pleasure to read out some parts of her very long and impressive biography. You see, we have two distinguished experts from the art industry, Kaneka and Christina, and of course, we could read their biographies for forever. So Christina, welcome. And Christina Schteinbrecher, she's the co-founder and CEO of Blockchain.art. She's an entrepreneur with more than 15 years of experience in building art marketplaces. Prior to Blockchain.art, Christina co-founded the art fair Vienna Contemporary in 2015, raising over $12 million and quickly securing the first position on the global art circuit as a top 10 leading contemporary art events. Prior to Vienna Contemporary, Christina was the artistic director of Art Moscow and curated projects with institutions including the Hermitage in St. Petersburg, Palais de Tokyo in Paris, and the Moscow Biennale. Christina was named one of Polar magazine's 40 Under 40 Europe 2018. She currently sits on boards of Armenia Art Foundation, Ural Industrial Biennale of Contemporary Art, Artbat Fest, and is an advisor to Ars Electronica. Christina is going to talk to you today about her latest creation, Blockchain.art, and everything what has been surrounding. And I'm so excited about having you on the panel. And now, without any more talking, we are passing the panel to you. Welcome, dear Christina, and we look forward to your presentation, to your talk, and then later, Kaneka will be joining you for Q&A.
Thank you, dear Olga. Thanks, everyone, for dialing in. Thanks, Kaneka, for taking the time to moderate and have a conversation later with me. Before I start, I just wanted to say I'm 18 years in the business, in the art industry. And the further I get along, and I've been working out of many different continents, many different countries, a format like Creative Woman is essential. It's really essential to bring women together, to inform them, to inform each other in a really pleasant dialogue where all questions can be asked and where fear about new innovations can be taken away. And it's really essential because I'm here right now in California, it's morning, and we're looking at statistics, and I'm one of the founders here in California. And just the statistics of last year, so of all the venture capital money, there was only 2.4% given to women. Of all the venture capital money out there, 2.4 was only given to women. And the statistics are not looking up brighter for women. What I mean is really essential to have that ongoing dialogue about business in all the fields for women and among women. So on that note, I want to start to share my experience in the NFT world. So as I said, I'm an experienced and seasoned entrepreneur in the art industry. And I started coming to California, to San Francisco in 2016, just on a regular note. And I started to join all different seminars, and what you did was basically to join a meet and just get yourself informed about what's the newest in technology. And it was blockchain at the time. In 2016 to 17, blockchain was the big word. There was no NFT conversation yet. And this is what I joined. And quickly I figured out, well, there's something there for the art world. And do we see the presentation already? Do we see the presentation? Yeah, here we go. So, and now, and I've been working and consulting since about 2018 on NFTs. I've been talking to institutions, to the art world about NFTs since 2018. And now all of a sudden in 2021, this word NFT just absolutely exploded on top of everyone's head. And you must imagine, I started fundraising for my company at the end of last year, so at the end of 2020, and I was trying by all means to avoid the word NFT because it would drive people out of the conversation. People wouldn't know what blockchain is, people wouldn't know what NFT is. So we were just trying to go ahead with this is digital art. And now we have 2021, and as by the different scales and nominations about what was the most powerful and impactful term or innovation of 2021, you see now NFTs are ranking first and among the first 10. So in a very easy manner, I would like to take you through the topic of NFT, what NFTs is and why is that important. So next slide, please. So an NFT is a record on the blockchain, and it represents a piece of digital media. It can be text, video, or bits of code. It's bought or sold online, frequently with cryptocurrency. And already in 2012 to 2013, the idea of an NFT emerged, but it wasn't really picked up. Only later, from the year 2018, the term NFT and the product was picked up. But just in very easy terms. So anyone in Kaneka and Olga and Viola and many people out there know that digital art didn't come upon us only in 2021, right? So digital photography, video, animation, games have been all out there since the inception of the first computer. So there were digital files, but as we know, digital files can be copied without anyone noticing it, right? You can have, you get a digital file, you do copy paste, and there you have a second file of it. And so the trust of collectors and the idea of collecting digital work wasn't really there because you could just endlessly copy it. Unless you have a physical work in comparison, where you would be fairly sure that if you have a work of art, a painting, a drawing, and it sits in your living room, that this is the only one out there. And then you have a paper document that would say, this is the artist, this is when it was drawn or made, and this is who you bought it from, right? This was the certificate. So you have the physical work and you have the certificate. In digital, for the last 40 years, you were like, I have this beautiful video, but it can be copied, and maybe the artist will sell it to me as a unique piece, but maybe the artist will go ahead and sell it again in his studio. So how do I really understand that it's really the one copy that is being sold? So now, just conceptually, think about an NFT and the blockchain as a digital file that has a certificate, a digital certificate that cannot be forged, that sits on the blockchain, right? So ultimately, it's not much different than a physical work. Because if you are engaging in purchasing art, you also want a certificate, right? So whatever you buy, a physical work of art, you also want a certificate that says who's the artist, when it was made, with a signature from the one who you purchased it from. This is the same for digital. But this digital certificate will tell you, this is the artist, this is the year it was made, and this is the number of copies around. So you would ultimately know that you are the rightful owner, and this is the number of editions that is out there, or it's a unique piece. So if you would say, Kaneka, I'm just going to roll with you as the expert there, you own a piece of a video, of a beautiful video. Let's go with Marina Abramovic. She was recently in London, did this beautiful show in the church, and you buy a video of her and you know, it's only one edition, and you have the digital certificate, and all of a sudden you, I don't know, go to a friend's house and he says, I have a video as well. You're like, show me your digital certificate. And if that friend cannot show you a digital certificate, you can be absolutely right that this is not a real artwork, not purchased in the right channel, and this is not to be there. And the artist can pursue, go to court, and really ask to demand this to be taken care of. Just as a really broad idea, this is how it works. Okay, next slide, please. So this is basically, this was the big bomb of 2021. It's the work of Mike Winkelmann. It's a digital artist who has been quietly drawing away every day, making digital drawings, digital paintings, or digital work on his computer for many years, since 2013. I believe, but he didn't sell. It's not that he didn't have museum shows, he wasn't picked up by a gallery, he was just accumulating a following, a community around his work online on Instagram. And last year, since still 2020, the number of people really paying attention to NFTs was significantly low. It wasn't a big thing to talk about. It was still like a nerdy thing to do, but he really accumulated more and more following. So he was making a drawing pretty much every day. And he picked up on audience, and then basically Christie's decided to do an auction with him. And he really sold this accumulation. It's actually the first 5,000 days. There's a zero missing, I apologize. And they sold these accumulation of images for $69 million US. This is when really the champagne started rolling and the eyes of press and people started to pay attention to the NFT, to a technical tool that is used by digital artists. Next slide, please. And then we have someone like people, Mike Winkelmann, and then you have the CryptoPunks, which also I've chosen 3 different examples of people that were picked up or that are fairly known. And CryptoPunks, it's a series of 10,000 unique characters, you can say. You can either attribute it to as a collectible item or an artwork. I just want to talk about it because it is really is like the key example that was followed then by many others, because they produced 10,000 unique images, unique characters of punks, and they are pretty much in that pixelesque style as you see it. And they were sold, and they are the highest collectible NFT basically out there right now as a series. And what I'm saying, so they produced the series, and now it's becoming basically, they've been copied many times of artists or projects spinning out comparable things of 10,000 characters, 1,000 characters, basically in one style, but a series that is very, very similar, or basically in the style of. Next one. And this is Refik Anadol. Refik Anadol is a Turkish-American artist, grown up in Istanbul, and then moved over to California, works and lives from LA. And he is working with AI and videos. This is basically still from machine hallucinations, a space metaverse, and this has been sold in October for 2.34 million in an auction. And these are beautiful installations. So you can watch it on your own screen, but you can also, he did many museum shows. He did basically also installations for concerts, really beautiful work. And you can go and experience it in a physical space or as well just on your computer. So these examples that I've been showing you is basically like the depth and breadth of artists and creators, as we say, of people using technology to produce work. Yeah, and it's up to the artist what to make an NFT out of. One thing to consider is right now is that a non-fungible token, as I said in the introduction, can be pretty much anything. It can be sound, it can be text, it just needs to be a digital file. And then this digital file gets that certificate. The interesting thing is, and this is really interesting art historically, is that these NFTs are right now currently have to be not bigger than about 50 to 500 megabytes, which is not big for a digital file in terms of art production. Right now, this is what the technology supports right now to make an NFT out of something, out of a digital file. So this is really an interesting point in time, because these technical barriers will fall very soon. I expect in latest in a year from now, there will be no technical barriers. So big files, gigabytes, can be then made into NFTs. But right now is that you see this sort of limitation, technical limitation, also spins creativity. So because you have only a limited amount of data that you can produce, artists are getting to it. And I think in a couple of years from now, we will see it as a really exciting point in time. This is like, okay, what did they do? How did they use in full creativity that amount of data that they can actually use, right? So before that, no one, the artist didn't really think in limitations, because we had drives, we had external drives, we had USB sticks. So whatever the USB stick or the external drive would catch, there was no limitations. I mean, if there would be, you would just buy the next bigger drive. So that wasn't big of an issue. But right now, this is what the NFT can be made of. It's a maximum of, and mostly basically of 200 megabytes to 500 megabytes. And next one, please. And just on the statistical terms, it was quite interesting, because digital artists have been, and I've been running art fairs for 10 years altogether before, and I've seen the urge and the need of digital artists to show digital work, video, photography, animation, anything. I mean, this was really the creative voice of artists, but they had a hard time to sell, right? Out of the limitations that I told you before. And so digital artists really were quite early on the verge, and they were excited. And they were excited to use NFTs. So, but it really only picked up when Mike Winkelmann did the big sale, the Beeple sale. And this is when press picked up. So just in numbers, just really in statistics, sale of NFT artworks to reach 3.3 billion USD by the end of 2021. And here we're talking about collectibles, we talk about, I don't know, sports NFTs, and also art NFTs. Yeah? And just as a comparison, NFT sales were 93 million in the fourth quarter of 2020. So it's a steep increase in trade volume. And just in August 2021, there was sales of 2 billion NFTs. And predictions for 2025 is that we will see 75 billion sales in NFTs, which is quite mind-blowing. I mean, at least for me, really, as an entrepreneur, how I told you just last year, we were trying to avoid any technical term. And I had on the VC and also on the venture capital end, people were like, are you sure that digital assets will be successful? And also on many artistic ends, on the professional ends, like, Christina, do you really believe? Because we've been trying to sell digital work for the last 30 years, and it was a tough call, you know? And ultimately, how quick still things can go, right? Once it starts spinning, and to some degree, and to a big degree, also the situation with COVID did help this process to spin up. And just another quite curious statistics is that in 2020, 15.8% of all art sales were done online. And now we're waiting basically for the new statistics with regard to NFTs. So in comparison, how did that growth in NFTs basically impact also online sales? So I expect that it will be even a bigger rise. Next slide, please. So the NFT current landscape, this is just also for everyone thinking about how that works, is basically there you have right now many different marketplaces that are coming to the artist and say, hey, artists, come and list with me. You can pretty much look at them as a proxy gallery, as an idea of a store that takes your work on commission and then will be reimbursed once a sale is happening. But in many cases, it's basically a listing platform, and the artist, as I listed, takes on the role of a promoter, communicator, seller, and sometimes the lawyer. So basically it's the artist that has to fulfill the roles, and the marketplace takes on the roles of listing and limited marketing, right? And providing the technical tool. But this is the current landscape as it is now, but obviously it will, and it is already maturing very, very quickly. So not every artist and not every creative wants and can take on the role of being the promoter, the communicator, and the seller all at the same time. So there are now solutions like mine that are actually empowering galleries and existing intermediaries to use NFTs and to continue doing their role, what they've been doing anyway, promoting art, putting context to the artwork, and working with artists and doing that, that role as an intermediary. Next slide, please. Next slide. So this is the global art market, and we are waiting for the new numbers. Is that in 2020, so it was already 59 billion USD in 2020. So the NFT sales will have a huge impact on that in the Department of Art. So we are waiting on that. And out of that 59 billion, 63.8 billion were accumulated by dealers and intermediaries, which is very significant, right? So why I'm talking about it is that as we see the market maturing, there will be this intermediary, this resale solutions also for artists to sell their artwork. And next slide, please. So the challenges, yeah, you probably also have heard about the challenges with regards to NFTs. Is right now the most frequently used modus operandi is to buy and sell in cryptocurrency, and that works well for everyone who is familiar with cryptocurrency or who's comfortable in cryptocurrency. But as still the majority of the world does not deal in cryptocurrency, and quite frankly will have trouble once to convert into, I don't know, British pound, USD, euros. The regulator, meaning the financial regulator, the states have to come up with a solution how to regulate and standardize sales of digital assets, digital artwork, digital files in regular currency, in fiat. And that's a whole conversation, but I just wanted to bring it up. It's a unified legal framework. So that means, what do you actually sell? So if you go to the different marketplaces and you want to buy an NFT, but what are you actually buying? Yeah, are you buying that small image? Is there a bigger image that should be there? What rights to that image are you buying, right? So it's not unified. So you, as a buyer, I would recommend to read actually the bylaws and the legal package of the different places, maintenance of NFTs. So what happens if you buy from a marketplace that it's a startup, everyone is still pretty much a startup, but that goes bust, that cannot survive, yeah? And what happens then to your NFTs? Where do you find them? What is the blockchain it's based on, and how does it actually work? And then fraud, and that's a significant one, because in many cases and on the big marketplaces, I could go ahead and set up an account and, I don't know, take photos in museums and try to sell these copies of photos that I took in museums. And I could do that as long as I have buyers that are ready to buy it, and before the marketplace will stop me and throw me out. So it's really also about fraud, and just be aware and basically check if you're going to buy and if you're going to engage, which I strongly recommend every woman to pick up the research there and really get into that. Is just really before you say this is beautiful, I think I saw that as a child somewhere in a museum, to actually do the groundwork and find out who is the artist or creator. Does it have a track record? Can you check if it's a real person or whatever that is? So only because it's digital, it doesn't mean obviously that it's absolutely secure. So I would make sure that you follow them on Twitter, that you see there's a track record, and that you get any additional data before you actually engage and buy. But as it's a very liquid and fast moving world, regulators are engaging, meaning financial regulators. The different states are engaging because it's such a big business right now. People are trying to make up rules on the go and really to secure the buyer, secure the seller, and so that business can actually work and not just burn different investors. And I think that's it for me as of now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. Well, what an introduction to the subject. Thank you very much. Very exciting for someone who didn't know much about it. Obviously, this is just an introduction, but very, very exciting, and obviously something which will be needed to be discovered by more and more people dealing with and interested in contemporary art. So now we are going to pass the microphone to Kaneka to reflect on your presentation, Christina, and possibly to ask some questions. Thank you very much again.
Okay, like I said, at the beginning of the pandemic, I set up an advisory, and usually I feel that when things happen in your life, they're a calling, because you've saturated a point in your life and it's time to move on to the next. So perhaps COVID was the reason that happened. And the focal point of the advisory, what I realized was that while I was imparting experience to people, I was gaining from them. And Christina, I have to tell you that you opened a chapter for me, which I think each one of us has our own pluses and minuses. I have mine where numbers and anything to do with technology, I believe that my greatest achievement is that I can send an email, and I don't go beyond that, right? So yes, being in the arts, like I told you, in 2019, we did do a whole talks program, and because I saw the change happening. I knew there was a tomorrow. However, it was not something I connected with. And of course, once Olga invited me to this wonderful panel, I had to do something. I had to learn and I had to read. So I had a few questions. I usually don't write them down, but I did. But your presentation was in-depth enough to take me through. And if you can see, what I was doing here is scribbling. and making my notes, because one of the, I think in my answers, there will be questions. One of the serious problems, not problems, one of the hurdles or one of the drawbacks of art investment for people who actually invest in art is security, stock. Where is it lying? Physical possession of the stock. Now, in my years of experience, and I've been doing this now for 18 plus years, there are collectors who like to own possessions of their art, correct? But yet there are collectors who, due to whatever restrictions, do not want the possession. So then it becomes the responsibility of the entrepreneur who's doing the art portfolio to then store the art, secure it. Now, what I understand is that the NFT eliminates that process, because it's a digital file, it belongs, it exists, right? So that is a part of the puzzle, which I think is a huge plus. My question here is, earlier it was, and I can show you this later, asking what is an NFT and how does it work? And my question is this: we're talking about digital artists who are today. What does NFT also work in archiving artists? If I want to own a collection of, hypothetically, say I'm acquiring a collection of a Monet, or how does that work?
Well, let's start with today. So it depends what you make of it, right? So I say the spectrum will go both ways. It will go with artists that are native to digital art, that are doing just purely digital art, and that you can enjoy on your own screen, on your phone screen, and then you can also install in your home, right? You can do something completely digital, also do an installation in your home. This is one. And then as physical work, especially already that is very sought after today, as you're talking about Monet, is just going through the roof, and it will be more and more difficult to actually buy it or even see it, right? Because legal and insurance protections and fees will just go further through the roof.
Correct.
I definitely see an archival usage. I mean, first archival as in you can, it's like the catalogue raisonné, but only online, right? With high or small resolutions, where you can also buy a high resolution NFT digital file from the museum or from whoever who has the rights to sell so. But it's not even to the Monets, but I expect basically the NFT landscape to go very much rabbit hole in all the directions. Just imagine people that love maps, right? There's a huge actually population of people that love historic maps of Venice, of Rome, of whatever there is, right? Of the African continent, of anything where, so you can imagine that obviously to possess a valuable map can be only one at a time. But if you collect maps and if you're truly passionate about it, that to get even a digital high resolution singular or an addition of 3, that if you possess it, that ignites a value and excitement in you. So yes, I believe that it will also go into that archival and historical work. And there is really who has actually the rights to do so, right? Who has actually, who is the holder of that intellectual property to do any scans? Yeah, is that the museum in question? Are there any rightful owners of that sort of cartographer, etc., etc.? But going forward, there's definitely into both ends. And then you see a third, which is pretty much like a hybrid thing, is fractionalized ownership, which is not even to possess a full thing, but if you think, let's stay with the Monet example, there is a very rare Monet that is going into auction, right? So it's not that and the price is just absolutely mind-blowing. So it's, I don't know, maybe 10 people in this world can afford it. And then there are basically now projects spinning up that say, okay, we're going to buy this money, we're going to put it into a museum, for example, a private or public museum, and you can buy a piece of that money, like a share of that money. Yeah? So in that museum, it will be on private display, on public display, on whatever display, but then you can pretty much share or buy and sell stocks of that money in a liquid market. This is the sort of what I say right now, a hybrid version of investing into physical art, but through a digital platform or through digital means.
For artists, or for a whole generation of artists out there who are at the edge where they are converting or wanting to get into the art of the future, what would you define as what is needed to make an NFT?
Well, it's so let's start. If you have, as an artist, and in order to make any digital work, right, even if you have been working physically, and any artist has her or his aesthetics, right? So been elaborating on that aesthetics. So at any age, there has to be made research. So if you come from a purely physical workplace, that's fine. But to go ahead and just say, okay, let's just scan it and just do reproductions, right?
Doesn't work. Yeah.
That's sort of fair enough. But I would basically say you actually have at least to go and do that research and get a little bit into how does digital art look like? Will you be, as a physical artist and as an artist who does purely physical things, will you be ultimately really satisfied by just scanning your physical work and just make it into digital files? Because this is what I've seen quite a bit of upset, right? Where artists that come from physical work that say, oh, I have no time, I have not the mindset to engage in that. Well, fine, let's just scan it and just like get over with. And then as the digital work, what you tend to see either comes on the size of your computer screen or of your phone screen, there is a lot of upset. It's like, the photo, the scanner isn't right, the colors do not come out right. And it doesn't really look great. So I'm not like, I don't like it. It doesn't even feel like my work anymore. So this is that. And then, so I would definitely recommend to see what is out there, to really study, to take a time, to really, I don't know, go physical shows, to see them in museums, because digital artists has been around, right? So has been around. How do artists work with digital? And then sort of, how does your own physical work translate into the digital? What is interesting for you? Is it the colors? Is that movement? What is interesting? And get that study, and then to find the tools, then to say, okay, I'm still fine with scanning. Well, then scan. Or that you say, okay, I'm going to do an extra layer, and I have actually an idea what I want to do. Either I learn it myself, how to use that tool and how to implement it, or fine, I get help. I get technical help, as I would do how to install a screen or how to install a projector. I'm going to get help. I'm going to try to translate that artistic idea that I have to that technical help, to that engineer or to that programmer that I want to work with, and try to get it as close to my aesthetics so that I'm really happy with that digital work. And I think this is what I'm also saying to museums is, it's like, Christina, what do you think? What NFT should we do? And I'm like, ultimately, your artist has to be happy with that work. And it doesn't matter and I would not do auctions, right? Why would, unless auctions are either for a good cause, or there's a professional auction house that does auctions, but I strongly do not recommend just to do auctions, because again, it can be very upsetting. But just to really set a price point that makes sense, right? So that makes sense, that fits the career of the artist, and that sort of balances out in the current NFT landscape. But ultimately, whatever the price point, the artist and the institution or the curator, Kaneka, as you have to say, yes, that's a great work. Yeah, I'm really happy to work. I really, there's something to it that I can actually talk about, right? That it's not like, it's just a number of pixels and we did this thing and I don't even have the words to explain what it is. We just tried it, So I see. It has to be a body of work that you go back to and that you're still happy with, right? I mean, you can be critical, as always critical, right? It's like, that wasn't the best of mine, what I did, but I still like pushed through it and worked it out.
Like we discussed or mentioned earlier, digital art is not new and it's always been a thing. It was always the next. But do you think that it is escalated, or there has been more traction because of the past 2 years? Has COVID been Has COVID been a game changer for digital art, according to you?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, as I said, I've been running art fairs for 10 years, right? And if you enter and you've been doing art Bahrain, so tons of artists that are working in physical, but they have been doing video or stills, that've been doing that, and they did it to experiment, to find another way of expression. And but sort of the user and the customer, they wanted something graspable, something that they can take away, put on their wall and say, this is mine. This is only mine.
Absolutely.
Right? And now in COVID, because I mean, yes, people were stuck at home, but we're wanting to exchange and to be inspired, right? Even out of home. And the institutions that have, and galleries, commercial galleries, since they have their ambition is to educate and to show art, there was ultimately, yes, what looks best sort of in digital is native digital art and native digital work. So yes, there all of a sudden within the last 2 years, there've been picked up a lot of digital artists from archives or from inventory of museums, videos, again, animation, sound work that has been, when museums were absolutely closed, this is what you could show in that meaningful way. This is how it intends to be shown, right? And where the screen is not an obstacle, but where the screen is one of the intended screens to be shown on. So yes, it did give a big leeway and acceptance for digital art.
We do have 2 questions from the audience, which I would like to read out, but only when Kaneka will finish with her questions.
No, I just want
We're running a little bit out of time as well.
Absolutely. So. I'm going to wrap up with one last one to say, taking a cue from this one, then digital art is here to stay, that we know, but do you think it'll self-correct itself once the world comes back to what was normal? Do you see a conflict or some kind of how the art world has had these halos and bubbles, if I'm using the right word. And this is just something, here I'm only gaining knowledge for myself. So a lot of times one has seen this cyclic shoot up, which is very normal in the art world. And then the crash down is that much higher. So for someone like me, it's just important to know where this is heading. And of course, who better than you to, and that's my last question here.
So I think it's, so the digital will not go away anywhere, right?
Yes,
because
absolutely.
all of a sudden, we are absolutely, truly global. Yeah. And for example, if you see, and I've been showing you sort of the record prices in many ways, but record prices, they can bust, they can bubble, But what is actually staying is that there are new artists in new markets, right? That there is a South American marketplace where artists sell for like $15, $20 their work. And it made huge impact in their life. Yeah. And we're not talking about the record prices that I was talking about. Yes. And so that means they get to sell, meaning they get to show, they get to engage with an audience that is absolutely inspired by their work. And what I really love, and I think this is something for every creative woman, and especially every creative person in the art industry, is that technology was adopted by artists first. Oh. Art is really the thing on the flag. It's really where the technology was picking up and being put attention to, and that's really important. With regard to record prices, you will see both. Things will come down, and also the run for record prices will sort of slow down, right? Things will find their own measurement. The novelty, right now, it's a lot of novelty. It's a lot of speculation. It's a lot of money that is just being flooded into something like, is that good? You told me it's good. Let's buy that, it's good. And then someone else. So but things will come down, and it will be a normal thing, right? So a digital asset will be sold by sort of the grocery store next door. They will sell, I don't know, Christmas cards as an NFT, as well as the museum will sell an edition of that one artist, and it will just depend on the files that are attached to it. And so it will just be as we started to buy posters, or we started to buy whatever, I don't know, email send out services, whatever. Yeah, so it's just the technology is the novelty, and the quality or the asset that is being attached to it. That will make music.
I think I'm done for my lesson today. Thank you so much. This was so much of fun.
Thank you, Kaneka, for your question.
Kaneka, thank you so much for your observations, contribution, and your questions. The question which I'm going to read out now from Victoria has been partially answered, but still, Christina, do you think digital works will fully replace physical at some point? What is your forecast?
I mean, I can be now very evangelical and San Francisco Bay Area-like, yeah, but I'm just going to spare you that one. So yes, the end of the world will come, and we only will exist in the metaverse, but not so soon. Yeah. So we obviously the market, when interacting in a digital way, is much bigger, and the number of people that can see a work of art in the digital is much larger at any given time than actually going into a physical space and looking at it in a physical way. And so yes, it's huge luxury to actually go into a physical space and see that Monet, right? Because the risk associated for insurances with having that Monet damaged will just go up and will ultimately seclude valuable work. So I always give the recommendation, I mean, if you can, get your running shoes out and try to see every valuable work that you see makes a difference in your life, or a work of art that you can still see in real life. Go and see it, picture that image in your head, store it in your head, and don't let it go, because eventually you will only get to see it very rarely, if at all. Yeah, and that's how the market will work. Physical will obviously not go away, right? We still can touch each other. We still have the need to communicate with each other. We still, I don't know, have the need to see people and to talk to people and do things, right? So our body's not dead yet, so we will move that body and do things. And so as long as that, but this will be just more costly. It will cost more money, and companies will ask themselves, do we really, what is it for? If we have a global population, we could do something for them versus for these couple of thousands of people in that physical space. Why do we do that in the physical space? What are the real reasons to actually do that in the physical space? And that will be further a question that will need to be answered, right? And so yes, the expectation is that eventually digital work will be more even secure than physical work, right? So if you have an ownership certificate on the chain that cannot be frauded, and then but a work of paper, a paper certificate can be frauded, can be changed, can be copied, and can be eventually copied in such a way that people will not notice. So yes, that eventually will make ultimately digital work more valuable than physical work.
Well, it's a sad reality, but we have to just accept this. And the last final question, dear Christina, thank you for this panel, very informative. I would like to ask, how can one invest in NFT? Is it all digital, or is it best to do it through galleries or museums? How can we verify that it is actually on the blockchain?
So how to do it is in a way up to you. Right now, it's a very hot market. It's pretty much like the Wild Wild West out there. So as I said, I expect there's a lot of people that do sort of day trading that are going into what's hot right now. There is no cutoff in this is interesting. So there's the blinds are on with regard the asset. It's just it's like, this is hot right now. I'm going to buy it this morning, I'm going to sell it at night. This is sort of day trading. And then, and basically I would, in terms, just choose a path. And if you say, I actually do care about art, I believe that these are the artists, then follow these artists, see what they do, if they are doing NFT art, if they're putting out their NFTs, and many already do. And most will very, very soon, at least in the next year. It will be just a standard, right? It's a standard as you have, I don't know, an Instagram account, it will be just the same sort of standard, and it will depend if you do an open edition, an edition of 1 or an edition of 100, and it will be reasonable and significant prices. It will be sort of, it will be standard pricing as everything, and some things will be more in demand and others less. So this is my recommendation.
Thank you very much. So it's really more digital. Well, I can't believe that 1 hour has passed so quickly. Thank you so much. It was indeed very exciting, very informative, with some, as I said, sad moments, but we all have to just look forward and extract the most positive experiences and knowledge. And thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us today. Thank you. And everyone who joined us today, you've been very lucky. For those who didn't manage, you will have a chance because we are recorded, and this is going to be published on Creative Women YouTube channel. So many more ladies, and not only ladies, will be able to listen to your presentation and QA session we had today. Thank you very, very much. So we'll be in touch with our audiences. We will be letting you know soon about our next events. There will be a few more things before the end of the year, and of course, many more online and live in many different countries. We have really, really exciting plans for you. And Viola, dear, please have a few final.
Yes. Well, for me, that all these things are a little bit complicated, couldn't be better said in such a pose, artistic way that I understood. And now another issue to learn about. So here it is. There is no end for learning, and this is part of creativity. There is no end for creativity. Thank you so much, Christina, for this webinar, and Kaneka for your wise questions that had expanded what I was listening. And see you next time with more interesting subject for our soul, for our brain, for our heart, and to keep expanding in a sustainable way.
Thank you, ladies. And it's a pleasure meeting all of you. Christina, I wish you all the very best. And thank you so much. You've elevated me, I can tell you that. And I definitely have a lot of research and learning to do now. Thank you. Thanks, Olga. Thanks, Viola.
Thank you so much, Christina. Thank you so much, Kaneka.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you
Hope to
soon.
see you in person soon.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, not only digitally.
Inshallah, like this.
Absolutely.
Inshallah, like this.
Thank you.
From our part of the way. Thank you.
Bye.
God bless.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Sunrise, I'm on my own time and I can start something new. When the sunrise, I'm on my own time.